Hi, how are you, AJ?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Well, I am super excited that we're able to connect and talk about getting a home studio up and running. I know there's a lot of people that are pretty keen to do that right now. And I can see we are in your gorgeous home studio with all your beautiful
Yes, all my
equipment.
lovely equipment that I get to play with every day.
Yeah, but right now, because of COVID-19, you're not getting out and about as much. How have you pivoted your business to keep going?
Well, I've transitioned a lot to taking photos to teaching other people how to take photos and video because a lot of people need to go live now. So I've just sort of been consulting people with their phones or their GoPros and telling them how they can connect it to live platforms so they can be on Facebook and YouTube with that. So sort
Yeah.
of involved with cameras, but not the same as what I was originally doing. But it's still good to have something work and some stuff to do.
Yeah, I think content creation right now is super important, and finding creative ways to keep connecting with your audience. And I know for myself, just staying like motivated and present is really important.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, AJ, can you tell me? And we've got some great questions that my audience has sent in. Like, what if I, thinking about setting up a home studio to do video? What are like the key foundation things you need to think of?
Well, when you're setting up a home studio, I guess the first thing you need to worry about is audio, because that's probably the most important part. If people can't hear you, they're probably not going to watch you. So first you need to figure out how you're going to speak or communicate, whatever it is you're doing. So I guess if you're talking to the camera, what you'll probably need to get is a lavalier microphone. I
Ooh,
actually have a
what?
spare one over here, a lavalier microphone.
Yeah.
And so a lavalier microphone is pretty good for speaking roles because you'll just be able to connect it to the top of your shirt and then just speak into it. And that's probably the easiest thing to do because most people are going to be using phones.
Do you want to
And
hold that up
so
again?
a lavalier. So this is a little lavalier that I have here, one of my spare ones, because I'm actually wearing one underneath this jump at the moment. And so people can use a lavalier microphone to plug into their phone because that's probably the most common way that people are going to be going live at the moment is with their phones. But you'll probably also need to get an extension cord. So that's what I have here is this extension cord because if your camera is far away like mine is now, you'll need to run it as an extension cord. Or if you have the money, you can pay for the wireless setup, which is what I'm using. It's a wireless mic. But that will cost you about $300 to get a wireless microphone. So the little lavalier is a little bit cheaper, more practical for most people just starting out.
Yeah. Do you reckon we could get a link to where people could find that product and we could pop it in our story post?
Yeah, I can provide you guys with a link. I use Rode as my brand, the Australian, pretty trustworthy. I don't trust the Chinese brands at the moment. So, but you can try for something cheaper. The Rode ones cost about $70 to $90, and
Yeah.
then you can get cheaper ones, but uh, they don't last as long and they're not as good quality. So I feel like you'll probably have to.
When I've had cheaper brands, I've just found the battery life is really, or you even need to put batteries in them, just totally unreliable. You do your interview or whatever you're doing, and then you realize your sound hasn't worked. So really annoying.
Yeah, I don't want to
Yeah,
cheap out on
pretty,
the audio.
no. You pretty much just plug that straight into the socket of your
Yeah.
phone. Oh,
Well, you'll
okay.
need the extension cord if you've got a distance. So that will cost you another maybe $8 for 5 meters. So that way you don't have to be standing right in front of the camera. You can actually have a little bit of distance to move around.
Yeah. So you're looking at something under $100 there.
Yeah, if you want to do it professionally.
Okay. Cool. What else? So one of the questions that did come up quite a bit, Ash, was lighting.
Yep. Well, I have a lot of lights to play around with here, which is quite good. But lighting is a bit of a tricky one. It sort of depends on what you have because lights can be pretty expensive. So generally what I recommend to start off with is trying to use as much natural light as possible. So if you have a room in your house that gets a lot of sunlight coming in, what you can do is you can just put up like a screen or a white little tarp and that will soften the light coming from the sun. Because once you start having to buy video lights, you're looking at, you know, $150 to $200 for proper ones. So if you can use natural light from the sun, that's probably the best way to do it. Or you could even do it outdoors under shade. It depends on how much space you want to. And, you know, being stuck in front of the camera might be good for some things, but I prefer to be able to move around and show people my contraptions. So what I've got here is a 660 LED video light. And then I've got my practical lights in set. But practical lights don't have to be too expensive. You can just have like little torches lying around, and then you just sort of set them inside like I've done here. And they just fill out the dark spots in my room because the video light can't get into the shades. And so I like to have little practical lights hidden around the room, which make for nice little fun little effects.
Yeah.
So generally that's one way, is the decorations really help too. They can really liven it up. So rather than using just a blank white wall, use something complicated. Use something that you have in your space. You know, if you've got plants and trees, or you have camera equipment to show off, or whatever it is you're doing, show it off in the background, dress it up, have some fun even. You can actually decorate it. That's good fun.
I've really noticed when I've spoken to, AJ, is, you know, when I have on camera and Zoom meetings, sometimes they just like have these points of light around them, like really intense. And I find it so hard to look at the video. What's going on there? What's that about?
Well, you probably have hot spots, and the camera is probably auto-detecting the brightest part of the frame or the darkest part of the frame. And then it's guessing how bright the overall exposure is. And so that's sort of the problem with phones, is they're all automatic. And if you don't have the nice sort of shading, as I said, if you have a window and then you put a nice cloth in front of it, or even just a curtain, you can soften that light out and spread it out, because otherwise you'll have a harsh light if it's just a very harsh, very close light where you're blown out. So that's why you need to be far away from your light source, or bounce it into the roof or something like that, so you can soften it out, or put, you know, the tarp between it. It's good just to use as much light as you've got. Natural light's always good because it bounces around so much.
Yeah. So maybe it's just thinking about ways to diffuse that light.
Yeah, diffusing the light's a good way of describing it. So just setting up a shade cloth or standing far away from it, or even just aiming your light into the wall and then bouncing it back onto you is a good way to go about it.
That's a nice idea. All right. And then, you know, people also had a question, like, how do I just make my video more interesting, or, you know, just in general look better? And, you know, what sort of planning or activities do people need to do you think?
Well, it depends on how, I guess, creative the person can be. I like to use up all my gadgets and stuff, but I guess it depends. Like, you could set up a nice set. So instead of being set in front of a white wall that's all boring, you can stand in front of a nice little set where you have decorations, or you're showing off all your equipment, or even just setting up some trees and other various objects in your frame can be nice, just to pleasing to the eye. And then another thing is just making sure your content's interesting, or that you have a plan, or you know where you're going with it. And then I guess if you really want to be fancy, you could then use some software like Open Broadcast, and that will allow you to do things where put frames in, or transition to videos during your live stream. And that's a free software too, so it doesn't cost you anything. It's just it's a bit of a learning curve, so most people aren't used to it. But since it's free, I would recommend the Open Broadcast software if you want to get a bit more advanced and show off your titles and your supporting videos and other people maybe in the video.
Yeah, I like it. So we've got some great tips there. So thinking about a microphone that you can have close to your body.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and soft lighting.
Yep.
And going bananas and buy lots of indoor plants.
Yeah, decorations, go crazy. You'd be surprised what you have at home already. You could just use a big bookcase and line up books in the background. People have decorations. You just got to put them together nicely.
Okay. I like it. Well, thank you so much, AJ. I wish you so much success, and definitely going to be sharing the word out there that you're available to remotely help people get online and get their video happening. Thank you once again.
No, pleasure.